Hello and welcome to another video review. This is Delta Force Land Warrior for PC. This is the third game in the Delta Force franchise. It followed up, of course, Delta Force 2, which was pretty much the same as the first game, only with slightly more stuff in it. This one changed things up considerably. First off, they changed up the game engine itself. They also changed up the just general style of play, feeling a little bit different from the previous two games. So this was met with both praise and criticism when it came out. And in general, people seem to like this one. So you have to wonder, what changes did they make, and how much of an impact did they make on the game itself? Well, the first change you'll notice is that they overhauled the graphics engine, so now that pretty much everything is polygon-based, except for the first-person weapons, which are 2D sprites. They're 3D models, but they're just done in 2D sprite work, and it doesn't really make any sense. I'm not really sure what they were going for with that, but oh well, whatever. Now it just looks like your weapon animations are even worse than the previous game, actually. And now they just look even more deformed. But it is nice to actually move the weapon out of the screen when you're reloading instead of just having it sit still. So now when you reload, it actually moves to the side. It doesn't actually show reloading animations. You just move the gun off screen and then move it back on. But it helps to actually know that, hey, I'm actually reloading now, instead of just sitting here waiting for it to actually show me I have ammo now. So that's greatly appreciated. But still, they could have done a lot more with the animations and such. Character modeling and animation, slightly better than the previous two games, but still not much higher quality. It's pretty much the same stuff, only with a very slight bit more detail in it. Texture quality is terrible in this game, which is understandable given that the maps in this game are absolutely enormous. So it still has that really, really long draw distance, but it's all done in polygon modeling now. So instead of this really pixelated voxel terrain you have, it's actually fairly smooth 3D modeling, and it actually helps you to acquire targets a little bit better. That said, it wasn't visually impressive when it came out, and it really hasn't aged well. Sound design, on the other hand, is pretty much exactly the same as the previous two games, but with more voice acting in it. And that's really all I can say. I mean, there's just a bit more voice acting in it, and it's a little bit more specific because you have actual player characters now instead of just, well, the thing going over the radio chatter. So that's a little bit nice, but still, they didn't really change all that much in that regard. It's still the same kind of quality stuff. In fact, some of the sounds are still the same, so it's not really that impressive. But the new sound effects fit in fairly well, and they're okay, but they're really not all that impressive. But when you get to the gameplay itself, this is where things started to change, and it's interesting because it retained a lot of the stuff from the previous games, like the insta-kill weapons. Whenever you shoot an enemy in this game, they just drop instantly. Doesn't matter what you're using. And you can only take a few hits before you go down, usually one or two. And it's the same basic gameplay. There is a little bit of variety in the mission structure. I mean, you'll be doing different objectives. Sometimes you'll be escorting, sometimes you'll be rescuing people, sometimes you'll be destroying targets, stuff like that. There's also a lot of missions where you just eliminate all hostiles. So there's a little bit of variety in there, but still, everything kind of feels like all you're doing is eliminating hostiles in a very, very easy manner. And I'll get to that in a moment. But the gameplay is generally pretty much the same. They did make some changes, though. The first one being, the game has a storyline now. It involves the Armed People's Front, and they're a group that are basically trying to kick the West out of the Middle East. What a surprise! But anyway, it's a pretty weak storyline. It's just kind of there in the background. You don't really notice it all that much. You're just more concerned with the tactical action that the game is supposed to be providing. But other changes they made. You can select a character now instead of just picking what you look like. And this changes both how you look in the single player and how you play. Slightly. Because different characters have different bonuses to certain things. Like one of them can take a little bit more damage. Another one is better with sniper rifles and stuff like that. So you have a little bit of variety in how you can choose to play this game. And if you choose a certain character, then of course they're going to have their own voicing, and it's going to refer to them by their call sign and everything. So that changes up the gameplay just a bit. And that's a nice little bit of variety to have. but it doesn't really change all that much in practicality, because the game plays pretty much the same no matter what you do. This does extend to the multiplayer, by the way, being able to choose your character, but what I mean by that is, in the multiplayer, you can choose your specialization and how you look. That's it. So other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. Anyway, other things they changed. They added in a few new weapons, but nothing really all that impressive, because it's still going to come down to whether you have a scoped weapon or not. And since they added in the PSG-1 sniper rifle, which has a suppressor on it, you're pretty much going to annihilate everything before they even know you're there. The game is very heavy on long-distance engagements, which the previous two were as well. But this one is especially bad because the AI in this game is horrendous. They will literally just sit in the same spot and not even really react to you until it's way too late, even on the hardest difficulty. And so that's kind of problematic, because it makes the game really easy. And so it really just feels more like a shooting gallery than anything else. So this game just isn't as good as the previous two games, despite being more visually impressive. And what I mean by that is, it doesn't look like complete crap in terms of graphics. So it's weird, because Delta Force Land Warrior, in theory, is a better game than its predecessors, but it just doesn't feel that way. It's not very fun to play. And so I'll have an annotation up, by the way, to where you can look at my previous reviews of the series, but I can't really recommend Delta Force Land Warrior. So there you go, folks. Even if you did like the previous two Delta Force games, you probably won't like Land Warrior, just because it's that easy. And in fact, it's even easier than it really should be, even on the hardest difficulty, because the AI is just so bad. But it just lacks fun. And that's something that the previous two games had, even though they were very repetitive and very simplistic. This one doesn't really have an excuse for it. So there you go, folks. Thanks for watching.